Hi guys, welcome back to Tech's Garage. Alright, today I just want to speak about the 350 Chevy budget build. Right, we collected this engine. It was partially stripped, the heads were off, and this engine actually didn't run very long, and they pulled it, and yeah, so we had to have a good measuring session with it, which we did. So yeah, right off the bat, one of the first issues that we found was the oil pump. The oil pump was pretty much encased in grit. So yeah, this pump we're throwing, we've ordered a new one, we've got a new one, and yeah, the amount of grit that was in there was a bit alarming. So the grit had already made its way through the galleries and got to the soft metal parts, the bearings, mains, big ends and cam bearings. So ultimately, yeah, they were knocked out. So luckily the dirt hadn't manifested itself in such a way that it was starting to eat away at the hard metal parts like the journals and the cam journals as well. Now, another thing, upon measuring the crank was previously ground 10 thou mains and big ends, and the crank did measure fine. We checked for taper validity and there wasn't any taper validity, and wear was pretty much minimal. So we decided to pretty much just shampoo oil holes and polish the crank. Mains, same thing there, no real issues there, and only issue we did find was excessive end floats. So it appeared that they had ground a little bit too much off the back face flange on the main, which would obviously increase the end float. End float we measured at around 3500s, which is about 14 or 15 thou, and that is completely too much for the application. I don't even see big diesel trucks with that kind of end float. So we had to address that, which we did. So we ordered a new set of King main bearings, and we pretty much adjusted to achieve a 7 thou, between 7 and 8 thou end float, which is fine for the application. Now that brings me to the next issue. We measured the bores. The bores were fine. No real wear. This thing didn't run long enough to actually do any wear at all. However, there were a couple of scratches in some of the bores. We're not quite sure on how that had happened. So one thing is that the oil being contaminated may have an issue getting between a piston and getting entrapped there and creating the scratch mark on the bore. That is a theory, but I have a different theory on that, and that's either dirty air going in. That would be my first guess, and then I have another theory, and this one is because upon checking the ring gap was excessive. I mean, you're looking at around about between 4 and 6 thou extra ring gap. Why they would want to gap a ring so great on an engine like this, I'm not sure, unless they had some kind of forced induction in mind, so pretty much running nitrous or something. I don't know. Anyway, so we addressed that with a new set of rings, and we filed the rings and got them between 18 and 20 thou, first and second, which is fine. And yeah, we're pretty much happy with that. That brought us to the honing now. So we had to settle on a particular finish, where our RPK and our RPV values would be within spec, but also to try and create a bit of longevity. So we settled on a 280 grit with appropriate crosshatch, which we honed, and yeah, we're pretty much happy with that. We do that pretty much, even though this is quite a wide ring. It's a 5/16 or something, which is a pretty wide ring, and yeah, even with a 280 grit, which is slightly finer than what most people would want to use, we find that it works pretty well in this application. So the camshaft. Now the camshaft that came out of here is a Edelbrock 2103 Performer Plus cam. Now I managed to source the literature on the cam, and it's a good thing, because we're going to be setting this camshaft timing in a following episode. What I can say about the cam in the meantime is it's designed, they say, for a wider torque band, which is pretty much okay, between 1,500 RPM and 5,500 RPM. Obviously, given the carburation you're using and your intake manifold, your exhaust headers, etc., etc., it all has a role to play in how this engine is going to perform. One thing that I need to address is these pistons are around 40 thou below the deck at TDC. Now that's how they come out. Now essentially the reason for that is the California Air Resources Board. So this engine is circa 1971, 72, around about there, and they had to comply with their emission standards set out. So all manufacturers, regardless of who they were in the States, had to comply with those emissions regulations. Those emissions regulations came about to reduce the NOx levels that were in the atmosphere then. So basically, and one of the reasons why you do that, how you do that, is by lowering the compression. So by going down to 8.7 odd compression ratio, they were limiting the amount of NOx pollutants that were entering the air. So yeah, pistons that are 40 thou down the hole, they don't do much for performance, because they're minimizing the squish band, and the squish band pretty much, if you've got a good squish band, you've got very good flame propagation, so you can move the mixture around where you want it at a faster rate. So having a lower squish band like this, not very good for performance, but if the emissions are your thing, then you're okay. Another thing is the heads. The heads are, funny enough, two different castings. One is a 996, one is a 920. From what the guys say on the forums, there isn't really a difference. The only difference is one was cast in a foundry in Mexico and one was cast in a foundry in Michigan. So for all intents and purposes, the volumes are the same. 76cc chambers, the port volumes are the same as well, and in fact the valve sizes are exactly the same. So there should be absolutely no issues with using those heads. So we just, oh, and by the way, they do have hardened exhaust seats as well. So that's obviously an induction process that is done to increase hardness on the exhaust seat. Yeah, so heads are fine. We've just done the seats and the valves, and and a skim. So yeah, they're both skimmed exactly the same to achieve the same volume, and yeah, pretty much happy with that. With the cam we are using, oh, I need to show you, despite all that dirt that was going through the engine, the camshaft actually came out the best. um, this cam, we've checked the journal size, we've checked the lobe sizes and eccentric, everything is fine. So we could basically just polish the journals, and even the night riding is still on the lobes and the gear drive for the pump and the distributor and the eccentric. So that's pretty much a win there. And in fact we've got a new set of lifters to go with this, and this cam is going to need to be run in. So upon first fire up, this cam needs to go approximately 2000 RPM and needs to stay there for about 20 minutes at least. And yeah, when I assemble it, I'll show you how we set the timing on this. One reason why I wanted to do that in a future episode is because a lot of aftermarket cams are ground with 4 degrees advance in them, and that you don't pick up unless you're timing the cam yourself. And you know, a lot of guys, they would just basically line the 2 dots up on the cam gear and on the crank gear and call it a day and say, right, everything is set, and away they go. And they're actually in fact leaving horsepower on the table and they don't know it. So pretty much we're going to set this up in our next episode, and yeah, this little engine should, this little small block should basically run pretty well in its application. It's going to be in a very light vehicle, so I think it'll perform okay. Power numbers I can't tell you. We're not fully assembling this engine, it's actually just a sub, but I am putting the cab in as well, just for the customer to, you know, to know that everything is set up 100% and it's all timed correctly. Like I said, this isn't going on a dyno, so I can't really give power figures, but from what the guys generally say, given this compression ratio, the cam that's being used and the carburation, I think 600 or 650 CFM, and some high-flowing headers, you're probably looking at around 270 horsepower. Not a lot by any stretch of the imagination, but I think with a wide power band, wide torque band, I think it's going to be quite a nice little engine in that Cobra that it's going into. So yeah, alright, we'll probably see you on the next one. I hope we see you on the next one, and then I'll show you guys how to time that cam properly. Alright, cheers guys.